wickets patrol the cover boundary. At last the time is come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than red counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pascoe, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. Would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
In the second test, in the second city, New Zealand's second string have made England look thoroughly second best. A brilliant performance from Matt Henry, who wasn't even in the New Zealand team at the start of the tour and might not make the World Test Championship final, rocked England's top order, and Neil Wagner, Ajaz Patel and Trent Boult have done the rest to leave England staring down the barrel. They start with England 122 for 9, leading by 37 runs, and New Zealand closing on a first Test victory in England in the 21st century. Hello and welcome to Guerrilla Cricket's coverage of the wake of the execution. I am your Lord High Chopper-in-Chief Knuckle M. Pandey, and I'm joined by my henchman. Sharpening the blade is Anindo Datta.
Good morning, Knuckle. Good morning, everyone.
And making sure that the big wooden structure can take the weight, it's Sean Nestle Boy Tracy.
Good morning.
Not sure who's got the harder job here, the roadie or the blade sharpener. And we'll also have Tony the Hangman Bishop later with us, and Al Hotchkiss and Ian Forth in theory, and if we get even later into the day, Paul Howarth. But we should start rather than by burying England, but by praising New Zealand. And in though this, would you like to revise your estimation that this New Zealand team are not as good as this England team?
Well, considering that I was about 165 runs off their first inning score, I think I'd better do that. I said at that point in time that I came more from a position of hope than reality, because I was hoping that New Zealand wouldn't do well, so they were not in a great frame of mind when they went into Friday's match against India. But the reality is that they are a good team. They've clearly shown that they've got far more depth than people gave them credit for. They've certainly got more depth than England does at the moment, from the looks of it. And it should be a very, very happy New Zealand team and confident one. All I'm hoping is that they're an overconfident one going into Southampton.
Yeah, all eyes on the World Test Championship final, and we'll talk a little bit about that maybe if we get some time. And Nestler's some of the players they brought in to this game. Will Young, injury replacement for Kane Williamson, top scorer in the match. Tom Blundell, dropped at the start of the series for Devon Conway, comes in on the morning of the match, keeps well and bats okay. Matt Henry doesn't have a great Test record, has been superb in this Test match. Ajaz Patel, not in the squad at the start of the series, has made a case for himself for the World Test Championship final. It strikes me that for the World Test Championship final, will have the best ever India Test squad up against the best ever New Zealand Test squad.
Yeah, it's quite a mouth-watering prospect, isn't it? I mean, I think you're right. I mean, if you read the papers in the morning or the websites as you do nowadays, enough's been said about the travails of England, and I'm sure we'll get onto some of it, but you can't ignore the fact that this is a really, really good New Zealand Test team. And we talk about the World Test Championship, hopefully beyond that for them. Because also as well, I like them. I like the way they play. And there's a good feeling about them, I think, and I hope it carries on that, after they've played India. Because, let's face it, I still think India I think India are going to win it. But, I could be wrong. But, I hope they go forward from this, because they do look really good.
Yeah, a lot of players around the same kind of age, in their late 20s, early 30s. A few younger players. Carl Jamieson's a little bit younger, and a few of the others as well. And I'm sure I'm looking forward to reading. I'd read a very good long read that Siddharth Monga wrote in Cricket Monthly about how India have over the last 10 to 15 years transformed their domestic structure to take advantage of the resources they've got, and what New Zealand have done in terms of streamlining the resources available to them is really, really impressive.
Yeah, with a much smaller set of players to work with. I don't know if you recall, but perhaps a couple of months ago, I did this interview on Guerrilla Cricket with Lalchand Rajput, and that's where he actually first brought out the background of the whole Indian system that has gone into this. What Dravid's added to that since he came in was what the India A team has done, and that's made it much more robust. But at a ground level, in terms of the coaching systems, in terms of at every age group, what's been going through the ranks over the last 15-20 years is quite amazing. And New Zealand is just, at the moment, I don't know how deep the bench goes. Are we seeing all of it at the moment, or is there much more at the back of that? I think the future, Nestlers, to your point, for New Zealand depends on how deep that bench is.
Correct.
Well, we are about to start up this morning. England 122.49. We'll come to your social media messages after this first ball or first over, or indeed the end of the innings, whichever comes quicker. And the man wielding the Duke in the direction of the valiantly doomed Oliver Stone, not that one, is this man. I'll come to that after this ball. It's Trent Boult starting. That's a very good delivery, which is a big appeal, and it is a wicket first ball. So no jingles, no tweets. Trent Boult, perfect line. Ollie Stone had a push at it, a little nick through to Tom Blundell, and England are all out for 122. New Zealand need 38 to win. Forget the bowler jingles, they are not relevant. The batter jingles rather. Trent Boult, hello.
How does he speak, or play the horn, or clean his teeth, or even yawn? How does he shout? How does he call? Trent Boult's mouth is really small.
A little bit of cut away from Stone, not swinging the ball back into the right hander this time. Little nick, and this could be over very, very quickly.
Well, as Ollie Stone, that's probably the one delivery you did not want to face first up. It's just eyes not in, ball moving, taking the edge. I mean, it's the worst of all worlds there.
Yeah, pretty good ball, to be honest, from to a number 10 batter. I mean, Stone has batted quite valiantly in this Test match with his 15 and gave good support to Lawrence in the first innings and bowled well as well. So that means that with what do we have now? 88 overs, I think, remaining today. New Zealand need 38 runs to inflict a first series defeat at home on England in 7 years, and for New Zealand to win their first series in England in 22 years, in fact. We should go to social media.
Yes, just before we go to social media, New Zealand have been known historically to score less than that. Just putting it out there.
Come on, England. Right. On YouTube, Vijay Mahan Dar Mavaram, hopefully I've got that right, is England should drop the experiment of rotation and play the full squad. Well, a lot of them are injured. Chantel Bryan, thank you guys for turning out to complete this test series from a genuinely grateful Kiwi. Chantel, it's been our pleasure. And Andrew Whittaker seconds Chantel's message. Vijay comes back, says India's bench is strong for limited overs cricket, but may not be for Test cricket. But,
the squad, the white ball squad that India are sending to Sri Lanka is absolutely terrifying.
On tweets, Oxymoronica says New Zealand have been impressive while England have looked scrambled with poor selections and no real game plan. Players who should be playing aren't playing. My finger is pointed fairly and squarely at Silverwood, Giles and the rest of the pathetic bunch of morons we call management.
Yeah, that's right. Start the post-mortem before they're even dead.
Mog sent a tweet in, but it's not really relevant. He says, I've got a really good feeling about the number 313. Time to go all in on the GPL. Mog, we're not doing it. Leia says, morning everyone. Miraculously, the YouTube stream is working on the app. Yay! David Latimer says, let's go. Fingers crossed for an early finish. Yeah, you guys have been marvellous, he says. Wow, that's good. Well, gosh darn it, says Mog. 10 wicket century stand, anyone? Jersey Oak says, nope. Leia comes back with Mr. Anderson padding his batting stats with a red inker again. Oh, wait. Warren's with us, morning all.
I mean, well, he did. To be fair, it was Ollie Stone who got out, so a nice naught not out for James Anderson.
Mrs. Luigi Magpie says, well, that was quick. Thanks for showing up this morning. It hasn't finished yet. Come on.
It will soon, but it hasn't yet.
No. Neil Franklin says, LOL, as the young people say. And Jersey Oak says, well, my last tweet aged well. And that's it on social media for now. I'm sure there will be more to come.
Just a reminder, a rejoinder to the first YouTube message you read out about India's red ball and white ball teams. Just as a reminder, it was the third string red ball team which beat Australia in Australia.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much any, a few more injuries and Ravi Shastri would have been playing.
Exactly.
Well, they might have given you a call. It's. I mean, I think you said it, Knuckle. The limited overs squad. I think I saw it the other day. It's IPL, terrifying.
It's an IPL All Stars team. Oh, look! India again has the population, but they've done the work over the last 15 years to get the most out of their systems and make sure that the system is working for them. What I think is fairly, New Zealand has always been, because I think they've had to be more creative and very professional in their structures. They've been one of the best fielding sides, if not the best fielding side in the world for years. They prepare very professionally. They are very well coached. They plan very well, and they've. I was listening to Simon Dool about 10 years ago or so. They made a decision to start trying to produce more batting friendly and less green seamer nibbly pitches in domestic cricket to make the bowlers have to work harder and give the batters kind of a chance to show what they can do. But it takes a few years. England is very, very fond of doing a big root and branch review every time they lose a major series.
I mean, the thing with New Zealand is if this team does go on and win tournaments like the WTC and get results, you hope in some ways that they take the kids away from rugby. not all of them, but some of them might.
That's
say,
a big call, though.
Yeah,
cricket's a thing. I
Cricket
might
can
go for
establish
that.
itself as the second sport in New Zealand if it hasn't
Yeah.
already. I
Probably
remember
is.
being in New Zealand during the quarter and semi-final stages of the 2015 World Cup under Brendan McCullum, and there was a real sense that cricket was that they were really, really behind their team. And this was also a big part of it. When Ross Taylor was captaining before McCullum took over, this New Zealand team were really unpopular in New Zealand. They were not just because they were losing, but they were seen as arrogant and disconnected. And there was a real effort by McCullum and Mike Hesson, who was the coach at the time, to reconnect New Zealand with their public. And that has happened. And that New Zealand team under McCullum really did that. I don't think I've been at a more excited crowd than that World Cup semi-final against South Africa that New Zealand won. And what we're seeing is, to some extent, the end result of a result of structures that have developed over time. But we're also seeing players, and we're seeing players come into the team and come into the setup knowing exactly what they have to do and really fitting in very well. To move to England, I don't agree with Nasser Hussain that they're trying to reinvent the wheel or that they're arrogant. And I think that there is I don't know what you think. I'm much more with Michael Atherton that there is a timidity to this England team and a fear of being seen to fail.
Yeah, I mean, if you've looked at the teams where you had an Andrew Flintoff or a Kevin Peterson, I mean, there is no way you can label this team as arrogant in any manner whatsoever. I agree with you. There is probably more timidity than arrogance. It's a matter of, I think, finding the right mix of people, especially when you have a situation like today where you have a couple of the key players injured. You're resting one more, and it's just others need to stand up and be counted. And with a robust county system, which whether you agree with how it's being handled at the moment, the reality is you still have a robust county system with players coming up.
I mean, it's a bit of a worry if our Test team is timid in a 2-test series against New Zealand.
It's too easy to say that it's a hangover from India, but there is. I was talking about this off air. In Sri Lanka, 2 tours in a row, and in that first test in India, England looked like they knew exactly what they were trying to do. They planned really well with the batting, with the bowling. They planned extremely well. As soon as things started going wrong in that second test match, as soon as the ball started turning at pace and then not turning, as soon as they had some challenge to that, and as soon as things started going wrong, all of that just ebbed away very quickly over the course of that series, and I don't think it's come back, frankly.
And there was probably some, if you remember, there was some poor selection decisions at that point in time. The whole Moeen Ali thing, and which spinner do you play when? They're mistakes, but I mean, I think that compounded everything because they
sure. I think blaming the rotation policy is also, frankly, I think misguided, and B, a cop out. Frankly, England should have enough players and enough of a robust system to be able to be better than they have been through the most of this year. Anyway, this is not how James Anderson expected his record-breaking test to go. He's going to start us off to the stand-in New Zealand captain Tom Latham, who leaves alone, through to James Bracey, or as we must call him, James Poor Bastard Bracey, as James Anderson is in with that dot ball. Here he is.
Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja.
In he comes, right arm round the wicket, again very wide of off stump, through to the keeper. There is no run left alone by the stand-in New Zealand captain.
He opens up a ding or sometimes keeps wicket. He doesn't bowl great, but I still don't wanna face him, Tom Latham.
And this man in his first series in Test cricket. Johannesburg and then Wellington, as it turns out, as Tom Latham leaves alone again, a little bit closer to off stump from Anderson. I think we could be seeing an bowling dry taken to its extreme.
Yeah. Well, Anderson needs to do a bolt. Let's put it this way.
Well, Ravi's getting punchy. He says New Zealand to be 23 all out.
We've seen some very bizarre and stupid and wonderful things happen in Test cricket. That would be the bizarrest and stupidest and wonderfulest of them all. This is through to the keeper. There is no run.
But to do that, at least the 5th and 6th deliveries need to be one foot closer to the stumps from Anderson. Sorry.
23 all out and Tsitsipas wins the French Open in 3 sets.
I'll take the latter.
Imagine the odds on that accumulator.
Yeah.
The fourth ball was a little bit fuller and a little bit closer to off stump. The Barmy Army bugler is blowing the death march as Anderson comes in wider of the crease, and this is very wide of off stump and left alone through by Latham.
Just wasting this over. Sorry.
There is no run. I mean, to be honest, I think any criticism of Anderson of the bowlers at this stage is ridiculous. To be frank.
Well, he could bowl on the stumps, I'm sorry, but I'm going to criticize any bowler who does not bowl on the stumps, however small the total they face.
Might as well.
If only for something to fill the airtime with.
I know I'm not allowed to criticize Anderson, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Anderson has not had his best Test match. I think that's fair to say. Last ball of Anderson's over. Tighter to off stump, but Latham leaves through to the keeper. There is no run. If ever there was a situation where you can wait for the bad ball, this is it, as New Zealand chase 38 with 87 overs plus 90. 177 overs. New Zealand need 38 to win. So that works out at 0.21 runs an over.
That should be possible.
Andrew Whittaker's looking forward to be tucked up in bed with the series won by 11 p.m. Mog's happy he can go and finish his World Test Championship theme jingle. Oh, looking forward to that. I'm going for 3 sixes from Anderson, or bring on Jeffrey Boycott to stay in there all day, says Harriet Atkinson. Some of these tweets are kind of out of date now.
Been overtaken by very quick events. Anyway, this man who has bowled, to be fair, very well in this Test match.
If his stumps were knocked down, what would make Broad walk? Caught 5 feet off the ground, what would make Broad walk? If he trod on his stumps, what would make Broad walk? If God was one of the arms, what would make Broad walk? Broad walk.
What? Broad! Starts wide in the crease. A little bit of movement into the left-handed Devon Conway, who leaves through to the keeper. There is no run.
I've got some news about New Zealand sports from Dan News. The most played sports in secondary schools in New Zealand are netball, basketball, rugby, volleyball and football. Football has doubled the level of participation of cricket, so there is work to be done.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I've met a lot of Kiwis in the interior parts of the country, and they can't honestly name 2 people on the New Zealand cricket team. So.
Broad starts very wide of the crease again, and again very wide of off stump. Left alone by Conway through to the keeper. There is no run. Stuart Broad is presumably absolutely livid. I think what I was talking about with that fragility and that sense with which England can be knocked off their game plan, the entire team's reaction to the Zach Crawley non-catch on day 2, they've been flustered ever since, seemingly. It's a short leg in place, or shortish square leg in Ollie Pope, as well as the slip cordon, 3 of them, as Broad is in. Finally makes a New Zealander play. Conway plays it very nicely, very late, just soft hands, and it runs through the slip cordon. Rory Burns, who emerges from this series with some credit, if not many other English people do, fields. They come through for 3, bringing Latham onto strike.
First ball this morning, says John Wetler, just about sums up England versus New Zealand. Deplorable, embarrassing and spineless. They just don't step up to the plate and we're mentally fragile. Give me Bairstow, Stokes, Milan, Wokes and Butler and stop messing about with our team.
Yeah, that's right. Johnny Bairstow's the answer. I'm not saying this to have a go at Johnny Bairstow. I quite like him as a cricketer. I think as a white ball cricketer, he's one of England's best of all time. But people have very short memories, is all I'm going to say.
White ball was limited overs game. I've got no problem. with Johnny Bairstow at all.
His record is outrageous, frankly. We've got 3 slips, a backward point, a mid-off, a mid on, a short mid-wicket, a backward square leg up in the ring, as it were, and a long leg. Stuart Broad, very much with bedhead, comes in to Tom Latham, arms pumping, knees pumping. Decent delivery, angling in from wide of the crease and just leaving Tom Latham. He's happy to let it go through to James Bracey, and there is no run. Bracey will come again, perhaps as a top order batter, which is really what he does, but this has not been a good introduction to international cricket for him, and he slightly get the sense that he just wants it all to be over.
Martin Lawrence has joined us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this series, and he's looking forward to the World Championship final starting on Friday.
It's going to be it's going to be absolute belter. Bear and I were talking about this the other day. Can't bloody wait. As Broad is in 5th ball of the over, full delivery, nicely played by Latham. Just waits for it and again guides it to the square of gully. Again, Rory Burns has a long chase. Again, flicks it back to Zach Crawley coming from 3rd slip, and again they come through for 3. So New Zealand are going to do this with 3s down to 3rd man.
Butley's with us. Woof. Oh, for fuck's sake, he says. I blinked and missed that one ball of play this morning before the innings break. How many overs is this going to take, do we reckon? Love and sausages. Not a lot, Mutley, not a lot. Is the answer?
I was having an interesting conversation with a friend a little while ago. So I was telling him, the 3 best teams in the world at the moment, 2 of them are playing each other at Southampton. He said, "You surely mean Friday?" I said, "No, I don't actually. It's the India inter-squad match." Which that's the only practice game that they have, actually.
Yeah, indeed. There's been a very lavishly edited 1-minute highlights video of that. That's all we've been allowed to see by the PCCI. As Broad is in, that's a gorgeous delivery. Is that an edge through to James Bracey? It is. Yes. That is a stunning delivery from Stuart Broad. Round the wicket, wide of the crease, a little bit of movement and angle into Conway, drawing him into the stroke and seam away. It's a bit of a hard-handed push by Conway, who doesn't normally get beaten on the outside edge. Through to the keeper off the edge. James Bracey takes, and Stuart Broad has the wicket of Devon Conway. He's gone for 3. New Zealand 6 for 1. It's a bloody good delivery.
So is Broad going to do a Laker here?
or a Headley Verity, 10 for 10.
That's even better. I mean, given the score.
They are asked the question, which I have seen. Have you seen Indian swing sensation Virat Kohli swing it round corners?
Oh God,
are you looking forward to him bowling at Southampton?
Virat Kohli's off the wrong leg, seeming nonsense.
Hombre Nuevo's joined us. Morning, Top Draw Gorillas. Great to hear you all this sunny Sunday. And going to say it now, as may not get the chance to short morning's play. Thanks as always for the fantastic coverage, and fingers crossed for a Broad 8 for 18. Corey Ace James, Surat / PM of Chicken Wings, says, "Love the Broad jingle. Brilliant stuff." Yeah, we've got a few Broady jingles.
Yeah. I mean, that one dates from 2013, but it's still it's still funny. As Will Young strides to the middle, made his this is his 3rd Test match, and he made a serious impact on a Test match for the first time. Indeed, the top scorer in the match.
Tonight, I'm Will Young. No, not that guy on Popeye.
He's not on strike as Anderson is in. Good delivery past the outside edge of Latham, who plays inside the line. There is no run. Will Young almost certainly will not play in the World Test Championship final unless there is an injury, but has acquitted himself very well. Extremely organised in that first innings.
Tony Martinez just says, England outplayed, well played New Zealand. Yeah. I go along with that.
Well, quite.
There's no doubt about that one.
As Anderson is in, back of a length and nudged by Latham to square leg, and there is no run.
Malcolm Bell says, thanks for introducing me to this. Andrew, I think Andrew Whittaker is talking about, it's gripping stuff. I don't know if it means the cricket or us. I don't know if we have ever been described as gripping.
Oh, I think we have. It's a reasonable...
Gripping? Us? And Sean Gilliam's really unhappy. He says everyone should be sacked.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone, sack them all.
Off with their heads.
You never know. Might work.
Off
the
with
fans, the umpires, the ground staff, the whole lot.
They don't have a mascot they can sack, do they? As Anderson is in to Latham. Back of a length and flicked by Latham. First boundary of the day. Flicks it off his hips past Bracey. In fact, it's off the thigh pad. So leg buys gets in on the action and is now the top scorer in the innings.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, on the hips.
Anderson looks suitably grumpy at that.
I'm sure he's absolutely fucking livid. That's his Stuart Broad, and he has every right to be.
Even though Page says Ghana expats thinks we're gripping. We're gripping. It's the cricket that's not, he says. Paul Marshall says at least it's not a 10-wicket defeat. Thin gruel.
That's more
This
like
is
it.
true.
Take the positives. Gallows humour. That's
Yep.
what we want. And pointless speculation about the World Test Championship final. About how New Zealand are going to fit all of their bowlers into the same team. Fourth ball of the over for Anderson. New Zealand 10 for 1, needing a further 28 runs to inflict, or rather confirm, this humiliation upon England. And he drops this into the onside and takes a single, meaning that New Zealand need now 27 more runs to inflict humiliation upon England.
Kia ora all from Rotorua. I think that's in Tasmania. I'm not sure. From John Wilkinson.
Rotorua's in New Zealand.
It's in New Zealand.
It's in New Zealand. Sorry.
It's on the North Island. Trent Bolt's hometown.
Ah. Here's something positive about Bracey's Test career. No innings he played was worse than the one preceding it, says Leia. Well, we'll take anything at the moment. David Latimer says, I like the fact these two teams seem to like each other and have a healthy respect. Don't forget, didn't Ireland skittle England out for 26?
Other way round, I think, wasn't it? As this is outside off stump. Will Young lets go his first ball through to Bracey, and there is no run. England did skittle Ireland at Lord's. Oh, I think we've had a no ball in there that was, or we should have done at least. All of the no balls are supposed to be called by the
Post facto,
by the third umpire, and I think indeed it has been called because the score has moved on to 12 for 1. So James Anderson has bowled a no ball.
Over the line! Huh? I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
Full swinging delivery and blocked on the bounce to Finish Gully by Will Young. There is no run.
Tony Martinez is instructing me how to say Rotorua. There you go.
Rotorua.
Rotorua.
It's a lovely place.
Rotorua.
Rotorua, yeah. Lovely beaches out there as well.
It's in the North Island. By the way, that was Devon Conway's first single-figure score in Test cricket. 4 slips await as Anderson is in. Last ball of the over, full and wide, and driven nicely by Will Young. He probably won't pick up 4. He didn't really try and hit it that hard. Rory Burns, who's been doing most of the fielding in this innings, chases it out to the cover fence, and about 10 yards in from the cover fence, and Will Young picks up 3. New Zealand 15 for 1, and their inevitable march to inevitable glory continues inevitably.
John Wilkinson says Central North Island in the Bay of Plenty. Home ground is Smallbone Park, used in both domestic 1-day and 4-day competitions. Sounds beautiful. Roy Offord says it's a shame that during undoubtedly Kiwi cricket's best era, New Zealand cricket augurs done nothing to ensure the fan base have access to the games. Yeah, we're doing our best for you.
Yeah, indeed. The fact that there was, until this second Test match, no New Zealand radio coverage of this series, and I think Adam Collins had to step in and get the Australian network SEN to cover the series is absolutely ridiculous.
That is really ridiculous. I mean, if you're trying to make the game popular and as they should be, given how well they're doing as a team over the last few years, that's just unacceptable.
Matt Edwards wants to know, when do New Zealand get a full 5-test series against England and England?
Good question. As Broad is in, starting wide of the crease to the right-handed Will Young, who blocks up to Anderson, and there is no run. It's a good question.
As soon as they can get television coverage.
Yeah, but Tony Martinez points out, England, are they worthy?
Very good. Very good. New Zealand can't afford to host longer series, but yes, certainly New Zealand are at least. I mean, this series was arranged very hastily at the last minute. But yes, I think New Zealand should at least be getting 3 Test series when they come to England in quote-unquote normal circumstances. Full and wide from Broad, left alone by Young, through to James Bracey, who clangs his gloves at it, and there is no run.
Two test series, I mean, are neither here nor there, right?
They can be pretty unsatisfying, because just as you got into it, it stops. But it's all they had time for, really, in this.
Yeah, but we're lucky this summer because you've got the 2 tests, then you've got the World Test Championship, then you've got another big series coming up. So it's a great summer. But otherwise, this.
Yeah, I mean, normally England go 3 and 4 or 2 and 5 if it's the Ashes or India. As Broad is in, third ball of the over. A little bit of outswing, but started on middle stump, clipped nicely by Young to Dan Lawrence, who with his idiosyncratic batting and whirligig bowling has at least made an impact on this game.
Andrew Fazalaki, I think I said that wrongly, but anyway. Even KO not showing 4-day live. What a disgrace. Lucky I found this. Andrew, it's great to have you here, mate. Happy to bring it to you.
It really is quite bizarre.
Yeah, well, we've stepped in.
Yeah, we're always here. As Broad is in, fourth ball of the over to Will Young. This is back of a length thing. Will Young thought about uppercutting that, but left it alone. Through to the keeper, there is no run. I'm enjoying the just the sheer discipline of New Zealand. They're going to treat every ball on merit. Of course, that's easy to do when you're chasing 38, but even so, it would be very easy for them to just throw the bat at everything. But
yeah, I think they're being very kind to the fans as well. There are quite a few who've shown up. I'm surprised at the number who've shown up, actually. Given
the English appetite for sport is absolutely ridiculous. This is full and driven by Young up to Anderson, and there is no run. I suppose it was
and the unbridled optimism.
Yeah, I'm imagining that there's an awful lot of gallows humour going on in this Edgbaston crowd, which can be quite fun.
Oh yeah,
and they're getting drunk in the sun.
It's one thing England are good at is gallows humour.
Yes, although I prefer the gallows humour to the competitive moaning, which you tend to get otherwise. I'm actually quite glad I wasn't on yesterday with all of that happening.
Yeah, where's Hendo today, by the way?
This is back of a length and rising past the off stump. It seems to swing a little bit as it passes the stumps, and James Bracey takes it surprisingly and collapses, but in behind it there is no run.
I think Hendo's spirit did not survive writing the match report from yesterday.
It was actually pretty measured, to be honest. The match report was quite good, and I think it gave appropriate credit to New Zealand, which is quite right. Anyway, that's the end of the fourth over. New Zealand 15 for 1, the 1 wicket to fall. Devon Conway edging a very good delivery from Stuart Broad through to James Bracey. New Zealand need 23 runs to win off 174 overs.
Eden Ottingnon says, can the two teams organise a friendly ODI to keep fans happy?
This is from Anderson into Latham, left alone through to the keeper. There is no run. That is how one-day international time. That is how one-day international cricket started. Of course, a game got rained off between England and Australia at the MCG, and they hastily arranged a game.
A beer match.
40 over match, I think. Yeah.
Might have been 60. I can't remember, but yeah.
No, it was 40 or 45, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The first World Cup was 60 overs.
Yes, that's right. The first 2 World Cups were 60.
Weird how the numbers change, isn't it?
Anderson in, this is outside off stump and left alone by Latham through to the keeper. There is no run.
But you couldn't keep them at 60 because in 1987 when the World Cup moved to India, the days were not long enough basically to do 120 overs.
John Wilkinson reckons during the 80s cricketers were household names. Now, unless you have Sky Sport or Spark Sport, you can't see the cricket. Radio Sport dropped off a couple of years ago, so you guys are greatly appreciated. Thanks, John.
Yeah, we're glad to be here and keeping cricket global as Anderson is in good delivery, hooping in swinger, which is very well played by Latham. He just drops the hands on it into the onside and takes a quick single, moves himself to 5. Hasn't scored that many runs on this tour yet, Tom Latham. Fine player, possibly the best Test opener in the world, but has been short of runs in relatively speaking. Surely
that's Rohit Sharma.
I think just on sample size. Latham's been so good for so long.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Closing in on 4,000 test runs, Tom Latham, at a very healthy average of 41.66.
Best score of 264.
Yeah, indeed. The first New Zealander to carry his bat in a test match, which was in that innings, for nearly 60 years. This is back of a length and left by Anderson through to the keeper. There is left by Young rather, through to the keeper, and there is no run.
Eden tells us tea and toast in hand, and I get 5 overs if I'm lucky. Don't know what's worse for shortening the game: England's weather or England's batting. Weather's not been
the
too bad.
The weather's been fantastic in this test match.
Yeah.
It's just the first test you had a day, right? Where it was something like that, yeah.
4 slips, backward point, mid off, mid on, both quite close to the bat. A forward square leg comes square mid wicket, and a long leg. This is a full swinging delivery by Anderson. Young blocks unhurriedly into the offside, and there is no run.
Investing Hike says Gallows humour reminds me of student days, making answers of questions from chapters I had skipped before the exam.
You get it a lot of time in football. So one of my favourites. This has happened quite a few times. The fans start singing, let's pretend we scored a goal.
Yeah. The Football League is upside down. The Football League is upside down. We're going to win. All that stuff.
Last ball of the over from Anderson. Young has a half flirt at it, but then decides that he doesn't want to flirt at it and lets it go by unflirted at, through to the keeper. There is no run. 1 run off the over. New Zealand 16 for 1. Need a further 22 runs to win from 173 overs. Why am I saying the overs? Because it's funny.
Ben Keevy says it could be like the Windies that faced a horror attack from Rabada, Ngidi and Nokia. No, it's not. Guerrilla Cricket to maximise Knuckle Pandy's trip to GC Radio Central about staying on and commentating on the footy. No, I'm not going to do that.
Football commentary is ridiculous. Anyway, we should have a change.
I fully don't expect to be back in half an hour, but maybe I will.
Thank you, Ananda.
Otherwise, see you at the WTC.
Yeah, see you for the WTC, and we hand over to Al Hotchkiss, Ian Forth, and Tony Bishop.
Everything to play for here at Edgbaston. Stuart Broad in to start his third over around the wicket, and that is outside Latham's off stump. He just dabs that ball to gully, and a very comfortable single. And I think this is an abject lesson, Tony and Forthy. Good morning to you guys as we celebrate Tom Latham's 4,000th run in Test cricket. There is something to be said for occupation of creases from openers, but if you can take singles and rotate the strike, it makes the whole world just a little bit easier, doesn't it, Tony?
Well, yeah, you have to have the basics of technique. It is a big step up from county cricket, that's for sure, and a few players have been probably tested and found out, and New Zealand have an absolute world-class quality attack, even if it's not their full world-class quality attack.
That is true. A wide, full-length delivery by Broad is left alone by Young, and Bracey moves almost in front of first slip to be able to take that delivery.
Why this should have come as a great surprise to anyone is perhaps the surprise when you have a look at the relative merits of the two teams, averages, look at it, experience, look at it however you want.
Yep.
Well, you can also look at the trends between England and New Zealand in recent years, which are extraordinary. I'll tell you a little bit more about those maybe after this ball.
Absolutely. We've got time.
Well, we've got all day if we want it, but I'm not sure our listeners do.
Broad in, and that is maybe kept a little bit. It's surprised Young. It's hit him in midships as he was attempting to try and pull that ball. Maybe he jagged a little bit in off the seam, but there'll be no run as we watch that ball again. Yeah, it's caught him. It's caught him around the belly button, maybe just a little bit beneath that. We don't really want to bring in Tony's your bike ornaments that we saw yesterday, Tony.
They're actually hanging on the cupboard door, but
as they should be.
Not flashing, I might point out.
Well, you don't want to waste the battery life. Broad in again, and a good length delivery, foot outside off stump, left alone by Young, not tempted to drive.
Those stats I was going to tell you. Yeah, so I think New Zealand have only beaten England 11 times in 106 attempts, which would make you think England were massively dominant until you look at recent form, where England haven't beaten New Zealand in a test since 2015 at Lords. So that's, I think, now 8, including this one.
That was going to be
they've lost two series in the meantime.
That was going to be my question about time is one thing, but how many tests?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Broad in, and Young thinks about cutting a cuttable delivery, but in the end thinks better of it, and that is the end of the over. I think there has been a comment from our green room that all those tests were in New Zealand. Though.
Well, that is also true, but then people say the New Zealand wickets are perhaps the most similar in character to English wickets.
True.
There was a really interesting article in the Times today written by Simon Hughes, and he was really looking at New Zealand's changing attitude to the way they prepare their wickets. So they're frantically gearing up to be strong at Test cricket whilst we're marginalising our 4-day game.
And that is a swing and a miss by Will Young.
Thanks. Oh yeah. Thought it was a wicket. Right.
No. It would be the most Stuart Broad celebration if it is that he took a wicket and then decided he wasn't going to celebrate.
Yeah, football like a footballer playing against his old team.
Yeah. Well, no. I think Broad would celebrate getting out any member of his family. So
I think that would be Ben Stokes, wouldn't it, rather than Stuart Broad?
Anyway, here's some tweets. Paul Marshall says, any news on the Ollie Robinson thing? Not yet.
Apparently he's taking a small break away from cricket as announced by Sussex.
Yeah.
But quite how long a small break is anybody's.
No, these things are relative, aren't they? Warren says, yes, it was a beer match, talking about that first one-day game. Martin Lawrence says, given that I am Australian, I wish the Kiwis were our team. Harriet Atkinson says, well, according to the Facebook screen, Stone and Anderson are still in. No wonder I was confused. I'll hold that.
Anderson around the wicket, ball that jags back onto Latham's off stump, but he plays it defensively to mid-on, and there'll be no run.
Yeah, maybe our Facebook screen. Actually, I'm looking at that. Yes, that hasn't updated. I'm sure Knackle will figure it out.
Tony, you sounded like the batteries had run out there just for a second.
I think it's because I was... Well, me, they probably have.
Years ago.
To be charged up overnight. I'm like an electric car.
You just leant forward and all I heard was... Anderson in, and again this ball nips back from outside off stump. Latham tries to flick it away, but can't, and there'll be no run.
Well, it's because I have Facebook on my one side of my screen and the feed from the studio on the other side of my screen. I was having to lean forward to see if that was true about the Facebook feed, and it was, but it's been fixed according to production and dispatch and generally every other department.
I don't know about you guys, but I've reached the age now where I make a noise every time I get up out of a chair or go and sit down.
Oh, I went past that years ago.
That's good, so it's not just me. As that swings in again to Latham, but he will drive that ball, and nobody moves as the ball is beautifully timed. What a lovely on drive that is! What a glorious form!
Lovely shot.
Neither batsman nor bowler nor fielder moved. For a minute,
perfect,
it just seemed like he played it to the fielder, and the fielder didn't move. And all of a sudden, it was just like, oh, there's the ball, just trundling happily along, and New Zealand are on 21 and just require 17. And that ball is wide, going wider, and should be called a wide. It's ridiculous what you can get away with in Test cricket these days.
I'm going to say a quick hello to Ruby Aaron, by the way, quickly on Face Tracker India, who is predicting New Zealand will win. I don't know what gave her that idea, but Ruby, we are delighted you're with us.
Yes. Controversial.
Tony, did you also want to say hello to someone from Barcelona Cricket?
I thought we'd done that. If we hadn't, I happily will. Yes, Barcelona Cricket Club, celebrating their anniversary, looking to raise funds. We've retweeted about them. So check out our Twitter feed, but there's a magnificent cricket club in Barcelona, if you didn't know, and you can find out all about them on our Twitter feed.
A steepling delivery, which Latham takes from underneath the armpit, and It's fielded at square leg and there's no run. Is it true that you want to challenge them to a game of cricket, Tony?
Well, I did say on our internal Twitter
Barcelona?
feed, I did say maybe one day we'll get to play them in a friendly cricket match, which could all be like a guerrilla charabang trip to Barcelona, which would be no small amount of fun.
Yeah.
Or them coming here, of course, which would also be fun, but not quite as much.
What are you
But then
saying
we-
about the temperate Mediterranean climate that might be an advantage? Anderson in, outside off stump. Latham tries to play the ball through the covers but cannot beat Burns at point. And that's the end of the over. And New Zealand are, well, just ambling their way to victory.
Martin Lawrence has a question that I suspect Knuckle can answer, so we'll give it to him. When did the one-day game become 50 overs as standard? Knuckle, you have 1 minute, and the clock will start now while I read some more tweets. Muttley says, I wonder if England simply allowed themselves to get out cheaply simply because of spite to deny any of the New Zealand batsmen a chance of scoring 100. Yeah, that was the other really interesting stat. Was it 4 players into the 80s? None
Zoltzman.
going on to 100? 5, wasn't it?
Zoltzman said that's the most 80s in or it's equaled the record of most 80s in a test match. I don't know what's
Yeah, it's
worse.
extraordinary.
The fact that that's equaled the record, or the fact that someone has knowledge that there was a record like that in the first place.
Andy Zoltzman's got knowledge of everything.
He's got
so not
knowledge on
surprising.
knowledge, skills to pay the bills.
Yes.
Broad
Meta
in
knowledge.
outside the off stump, tempting Young to drive, but the young man is not for driving. And that goes
I was
through
going
the
to say, actually, don't you think it's one of the charming rituals of cricket and one of its idiosyncrasies that we all turn up for something that's rather meaningless and foretold, may only last 3/4 of an hour, and yet here we are. You wouldn't get this in other sports.
I get a feeling that in order to get a refund, because if you bought a ticket for today, you're going to get some sort of refund. In order to get a refund, you've got to first of all show up. I think
that could be the case.
I think it is, and that is actually on the stumps. And Young immediately scores runs down to long leg. And now the score moves on to 22.
But that's also the wonderfully social thing about watching cricket. I mean, if it was me, if I had a ticket for Edgbaston, it would be with friends, and we'd already have Plan B in place. Turn up for an hour's cricket, and then what will Plan B be? We'll be off somewhere in Birmingham. We wouldn't waste a day that we had planned hanging out together and probably drinking. We'd just go and hang out and drink somewhere else. So, cricket's a social conduit. That's one of its great beauties.
I suppose two of the great mornings of English cricket of the last 20 or 30 years. I'll just come back to that after this broad ball.
Around the wicket, and Latham will dab that in front of square, in front of point, where there is a vast yawning chasm of a gap, and they're able to turn a very quick and very sprightly 2.
Yes, I think they're 1998 at Headingley. I think England had to get the last 2 wickets against South Africa. They had 35 or so runs to get. And it was a full house. Ditto, of course, Edgbaston 2005. Those 2 matches might have only lasted 5 minutes. And yet, full houses on both occasions.
Yep, no, cricket can do that.
It's amazing what the draws of sunlight and beer will do for an English crowd.
Turn them pink and pissed at the same time.
Absolutely. And that is 2 wide. Latham will not drive at such a delivery, and he'll let that go through to Bracey. 24 for 1, chasing 38.
Speaking, by the way, of those, so sorry, Forty, after you. You go first.
No, that's okay. I just quickly from Knuckle, we've got the answer there. The first World Cup at 50 overs was 1987. So sometime between 1983 and 1987 was the standardised 50 overs.
There you go. Talking about the social side of cricket, there seems to be a little relationship, a friendship forming on our YouTube feed. John Wilkinson saying, Kia ora from Rotorua. How far down south are you? Tony Martin is keeping in touch and letting him know where he is. Quite a chat going on there.
Short pitch delivery, tempting Latham to pull. I think it gets a bit too steep for him and he pulls out the shot, and Broad somehow looks disappointed, and the world trudgingly on his shoulders as he
you two fellows would know. Have there been any guerrilla cricket romances formed over the years that we know of?
I believe so, but I couldn't divulge.
Yeah, it's not for us to say. You know.
What stays in the green. What goes on in the green room stays in the green room.
Well, here's the
you know that rule.
Here's the lovely Graham to remind you of your choices. Broad in and a full-length delivery just about on off stump. Latham plays the ball and he would have been gone for all money if mid-on had been able to hit the stumps. Mark Wood disappointed, but only a stump and a bit to aim at. He doesn't find the stumps. Latham goes to 13 and New Zealand to 26 for 1.
Tony Martinez
And a no
is in
ball.
no. Oh, good.
Over the line.
Tony Martinez is in Greymouth.
I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
Forgot how long that jingle was. And John Wilkinson says, "Nice to see Gorilla are able to enjoy, listen to blokes who aren't as one-eyed as our Aussie colleagues, and are so great at being makes staying up worth for." It's an interesting sentence with some of the words all a bit back to front, but we know what you meant, and we're very
got the gist. We got the gist.
Yorker length delivery, attempted drive to mid-off. Can't beat the fielder.
I can't help thinking if we had a New Zealander in the commentary box, they'd be saying, "Oh yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is all right, isn't it?"
Yeah,
they've been taking it very much in their stride as they do everything.
Well, the only word I can sort of pronounce with a New Zealand accent is shit. So can we speak in the shit?
It's always also dick.
Oh, they'll be having some
Sitting out on your dick.
Fish and chips after this, a celebratory lunch.
Chips in the shit. As Broad bowls a good length delivery, too wide outside off stump. Young will just let that go through to Bracey. And for those of you who are counting at home, New Zealand require another 11 runs.
Well, I've got a quick question just to tease people with. They can tweet us in the answer. Who is against England in Test matches against England for New Zealand? Who is the third most successful wicketkeeper? Actually, I think it might be the third most catches overall. And what is he now more famous for?
What?
14 matches against England.
Can I have a guess?
Couched 42 dismissals.
Can I have a guess?
You want to answer? Well, you can. What do you think the answer is?
Oh, I'll tell you what. To keep it fun, I'll type it as I'm commentating.
All right, and that's the question.
Anderson in, dabbed down by Latham, and again another quick single taken.
Matches against England, third most successful
There you go, Tony.
New Zealand wicketkeeper in terms of dismissals.
Am I right?
And what is he more famous for?
It's on the chat, Tone.
Al, you are correct.
Boom!
There is no prize except my admiration for your knowledge.
What? It's a shock and an outrage, ladies and gentlemen. It's a sham of a mockery of a mockery of a sham of a quote.
Well, actually, Paul Smith and John Wilkinson have got it already anyway, so it obviously wasn't that hard a question. So I will give it out at the end after this ball.
Anderson in on the legs of Young. He's falling away slightly towards his offside, but can't beat square leg, and there's no run. 10 to win. Tony.
Well, John Wilkinson and Paul S. Both got it over on YouTube. I haven't checked Twitter yet. It is, of course, IDS Smith, who is now more famous for his calling of the World Cup final over in the barest of margins.
Barest of margins.
He's very good at rugby commentating as well. As Anderson is in, and that just kind of cramps Young for room. I think he was looking to try and cut that ball away, and in the end just dabs it down to gully.
Actually, one of the enduring images from that World Cup final commentary when they did the documentary on it is Ian Smith standing up and behaving like an overexcited Englishman, and Nasser Hussain sitting fairly stately by his side. It was a real role reversal on the day, but fair enough. Emotions were running incredibly.
My memory of
high.
Nasser Hussain would always be the charity game with the West Indies and the rest of the world, where he was on the field, mic'd up in his jumper.
That is jagging back, and Young takes one hand off the back. Maybe that just sent extra vibrations through the bat as he hit that square leg, and there'll be no run. It's not quite the widest of margins, this test match, is it? 9 wickets.
I think here's a question about... Sorry, go on.
Just a humorous internal email. New Zealand will win by the widest of all margins.
By the widest of margins.
Yes. Well, that's not quite true, actually.
True enough.
Actually, it might be. I don't know whether they must have won by wider margins than this against England at some point, I'm sure.
You would hope so. Slightly back of a length from Anderson, played back to him by Young, who remains on 4. Latham is 14. all of this fairly immaterial. Anderson, 1 ball left of his 5th over.
One thing I would point out is last time that I think New Zealand beat England. They're coming into bowl.
He is. Anderson, and that is edged. And it's difficult to tell from people's reaction. I think he's gone.
He's gone.
He's been called.
He's gone ski.
No one. Anderson does not want to sell. No, hang on. You bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody is moving in any particular direction. The camera is flashing around from people.
It's confusing, isn't it? Because he tucked his bat under his arm.
Took his bat away. So it made me think that he was on his way. He isn't on his way, ladies and gentlemen. He's under-edged that, and it's gone on the bounce to second slip.
Okay.
Stuart Broad has decided he doesn't want to bowl anymore. And so this man will bowl instead.
I wish my papa was an honest soul. And any granny comes to and makes it his own. I wish my papa's honest soul. Then I'd have a claim of fame of my own.
The Ollie Stone is going to be coming into bowl. And that ball is on the hip of Latham. He'll turn that behind square. And even though there is a fielder just 5 yards away, there will be a single. Latham will move to 15, and now we're into single digits.
Squeeze in some tweets as we go. Sorry, go on.
Oh, okay.
No,
I was going to say this après moi. This two match series has been somewhat catastrophic, but we have a look at the scores that England put up against New Zealand in 1999, which I have here. 126, 211 for 3, break off.
Stone in outside of Young's off stump, and he will not attempt a shot.
Yes, so first test, 126, 211 for 3. Second test, 186 and 229. Third test, 199 and 181 for 2. And fourth test, 153 and 162. So their top score in 8 innings was 229. I think we've got to 300 twice, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, this has been the comparative triumph compared to 1999, which really was a low point.
Stone in for the next ball, and that is 2 wide, going wider, and Bracey will take the ball behind the stumps. Looking at Ollie Stone's action, it's not quite the pronounced front foot all the way up of like Patrick Patterson and Gray and Dilly, but there's a hint of that, isn't there? Of just like everything must lock into place and he'll go through his limbs one at a time.
Yeah, a little on the mechanical side, you'd say. Yes.
Whose dog is that?
It's not mine.
I'm afraid it's my Cocker Spaniel, Toby. Someone's come to the door. I assume I have one of my people.
Wide, and Young has driven that ball behind point. Rory Burns cannot stop it. New Zealand knocking on the door of victory.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
What's the name of your dog?
Toby.
Toby.
Yes, Toby, my Cocker Spaniel.
Good boy,
10 years
Toby.
old. Yes.
Good dog. Good guard dog behaviour from Toby.
It's very good, yeah, but rather annoying now, and I'm surprised no one's got to. I might have to go myself in a minute.
Well, we might not have long to wait. 5 to win, as that is wide and full from Stone, and Young decides, I do not like this ball. I shall wait for another ball. Very louche.
Meantime, somewhere in Australia. Are you in Australia, Forthy?
I am indeed in Melbourne. Yes.
Somewhere in Melbourne, there's a one-legged postman hopping away from your from your driveway. But you'll let him just lie there with his limb dangling off until the match is finished.
There's a postman limping like Kaiser Sose in The Usual Suspect.
Consummate professional.
And he's bowled him.
Well.
He has as well.
And can you imagine being the number 4 batsman just having to go, what, I've got to go in for 5? Young tried to drive a wide ball by Ollie Stone, and he's played onto his stumps. And Will Young, not quite the evergreen innings that he wanted. He has to go.
Well.
Goes to show that the 150 would have been an interesting total.
Go OUT the window, go OUT
scorers all over the country and the world just berating Young silently into their scorecards.
Yeah. Romances, Guerrilla Romances, Mog has said there's some truth to the rumour Tony tried to seduce me when he was in Melbourne. There isn't, I might point out. I did give him a hug. I have to confess I did give him a hug. But in a very matey way.
Now, Mog, we're going to give you exclusive right of reply, and believe me, there will be no fact checking.
Warren says, Green Room Romancer, does it involve not Fred Titmus and not Fred Titmus? Which I
don't think he'd like himself.
John Wilkinson says, what location are you Guerrilla guys, Guerrilla guys commentating from? Well, our studio, John, is in Sydenham in southeast London near Crystal Palace, but we're all over the place. We're remote at the moment, operating mainly remotely. So Knuckle this morning is in the studio, Al is in the Wirral, Ian, as you just heard, is in Melbourne.
My spare bedroom.
In his spare bedroom in the Wirral.
I don't know if he wants to be that
which has its own postcode. That's how big his house is. Ian, as you heard, is in Melbourne.
It's not as big as your garden, Tony. Let's not go back to that.
I'm in Claygate, and Indo is in Singapore. So we're quite a global community at the moment, as you can probably have heard.
There'll be some jingles in just a moment as a new bowler comes in, that being half man, half horse, all amazing Mark Wood. He bowls a very wide ball that Latham can't get a bat on. And so let's jingle the bowler, and then if the batsman gets the bat, then we'll jingle him up too.
Do you know Mark Wood? Yes, he is an England bowler, quite good and pretty quick. So just a normal guy. Of course, except for just one thing. What? He thinks that he's a horse. Right. What?
Wood coming in with all of his might and fury, and he bowls very fast, and this time straight, and Latham meets it with a straight bat, and he goes to mid-on, and there'll be no run.
New Zealand have never beaten England by 10 wickets. They won by 9 wickets at Lord's in 1999, so thank you for that information.
And
I think that's probably Knuckle.
And they won't even do it now.
They won't, will they?
No. Seems... It's a very New Zealand thing to do. We don't want to beat you by 10 wickets. We don't want you to feel so bad about yourself. So we'll beat you by 8 wickets, maybe 7. Wood, and that is on the legs of Latham, and Latham has timed that beautifully through square leg, and that will trundle all the way for maybe the last one of these in the series.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
If you're scoring at home, or even if you're by yourself, the scores are level.
I think a change of commentators at the half-hour point, it would be rather pointless. You might as well carry on in your magnificent style, Al.
Do you reckon?
I think so.
Should we alternate deliveries?
Well, no. It was going to be me, and you're doing such a fine job. I'm very happy reading tweets. Yes, absolutely. Sure? Yes, of course.
No, I'm happy summarising.
Yeah,
fine. Wood in. That ball's been left. I thought we were going to end this with a bye, but Bracey dives despairingly to his back towards the leg side and takes a good ball. The ball moved quite sharply after it had gone past the stumps.
Yeah, winning on a no ball is the equivalent of sort of winning on a VAR appeal, isn't it? It's a great anti-climax.
Been a few comments on YouTube about Ian Smith having put on a pound or two since he retired.
Well, good on him.
The best of them being Tony Martinez, who says, I don't want any mean messages about Ian Smith. He's had a lot on his plate.
That is funny, I'm sorry.
That's what I thought.
Wood in, and that is dabbed down to a vacant third-man area by Latham. The ball goes for 4. Nobody cares. New Zealand have won by 8 of your Earth wickets. And what a smashing job they've done. Absolute, complete domination from midway through day 1 right the way through to the end of this test match.
I think Knuckle would like to play something. We don't know what it's going to be. There it is.
And now as the trumpets play. Gents.
Well, look, I would say...
Thankfully, we didn't have to wait long.
No.
Knuckle, is this the world's longest jingle? What are you doing?
No, it's still going.
Is it the Nuremberg Rally? Is that what's going on?
Oh, talk over. It's fine. Okay. Well, I'll try to. It's quite
It's
interesting.
rather loud.
Oh, there we go.
Quite distressing.
Well, I would say that is both a fantastic series win for the New Zealanders. Many congratulations to them. Absolutely thoroughly deserved, of course. But I would also say it's absolutely no surprise at all. If you had a look at the prospects for the two teams in any rational, pragmatic way before the series started, you would say New Zealand are clearly stronger and clearly the favourites. I think that England, whether it was arrogance, whether it was misplaced rotation policy, they put some very callow batsmen who are 23 and 24 years old to play one of the two best teams in the world, and look at the results. No surprise at all. They need to go back and have a jolly good think about what their approach to this series was and whether they actually, in
the words of the great Alan Hansen, you won't win anything with kids.
Well, you won't.
The fact is
you won't
but
at
you need
test
to
level.
introduce them gradually.
Correct. I mean,
Experience around them.
what's Zach Crawley doing at number 3 when he's all over the place? Great. Crawley, Pope, Bracey, Lawrence as a middle order is absurd against one of the two best teams in the world. Bowling, fine, no problems with the bowling. Well done to New Zealand. Fantastic performance from them, and really looking forward to the World Final in next week.
And we will be there. Let me wind up on some social media messages, and then Al, you can just wind us down. Well, firstly, of course, fantastic. Well done, New Zealand. Superb effort. John Wilkinson says, thank you, gentlemen. Martin NG says, brilliant commentary. Tony Martini says yes, New Zealand are the best. Go the Black Caps, says Martin NG. Andrew Whitaker says, 11 p.m. on the dot. Many thanks, guys. Looking forward to Friday. Brian Ellis says, great game. And I'll just spin down a few Twitter messages. Something about Jersey Oak says, so what do we all do now until the football starts? Do you have a fridge where you're self-isolating, Jersey Oak? In which case, allow me to point you in its general direction, and whatever beer is in there. Neil Franklin says, thank you, New Zealand and Gorilla Cricket, and good night indeed. Mog says, I guess I'll see you motherfuckers on Friday. You will, Mog, and we shall look forward to seeing you. Muttley says, half man, half horse. The word you're looking for is centaur. Indeed it is. And an entirely unrelated request, can somebody draw a Markwood centaur bowling? Didn't somebody do that? I thought Dr. Dan had done that already, Knuckle. Remind me.
I'm not sure. The only reason I refer to him as half man, half horse is so that I can then say the word all amazing at the end of it.
And not half man, half biscuit.
Well,
to clarify, I am not a postman. Says Muttley. Muttley, I'm sorry. That was. I understand my joke about the dog and the postman. But there we go. Martin Lawrence, 1999, I believe England were ranked bottom in the World Test match rankings.
Yes,
they
were.
Right,
That's
Martin
correct. That is correct.
I shall probably Ravi Nair. It's the first time in some 90 years that New Zealand, 90 years, that England have been one of the world's best teams. Even during Hadley's days, they were never. I think New Zealand have been one of the world's best teams. Goodness me! Even during Hadley's days, they were never formidable. No, they didn't. He didn't really have the support around him, did he?
No.
Leah says, I want Smith to commentate on competitive drinking, screaming by the beerest of margins. I'll get my coat, which is a very English expression. I have to say, but beautifully delivered. Paul Tudor says, paid someone to help him get up Everest. It's Edmund Hillary, yes, and it was Sherpa Tenzing, of course, who helped him. I think that must be some conversation about great New Zealanders. And I won't go on because I did miss a lot, but we've enjoyed your company massively. Al?
We certainly have. England, 303 all out and 122 all out, have lost to New Zealand, 388 all out and 41 for 2 by 8 wickets, winning the series 1 test match to 0. All of this, though, is really the appetizer, the amuse-bouche to the real reason that India and New Zealand are in England at this time of the year. The World Test Championships begins on Friday, the final. And we will be with you every step of the way.
We will. We'll be on air at least probably 15 minutes before.
Absolutely.
Every ball with us. Music, jingles, GPL to enter. All the fun of the Rose Bowl Fair, and you'll hear it all here, and we will look forward to seeing it.
So, be safe, be well, enjoy the rest of your Sundays, and from all of us here, we hope to see you on Friday, but for now, it's goodbye.
Goodbye, farewell.